Sonic Talk.
Hello everybody, welcome to Sonic Talk episode 535. There was no show last week because I was on holiday. I went to Sardinia, had a lovely time, very computer off kind of scenario, sitting on a beach or eating in a restaurant and wandering about in Mediterranean style. Hat and shorts. I won't show any photos because they're there, but I'm glad I wore a hat. It's very hot, although I've come back and I feel like people got more of a tan here. I always have to be very careful in the sun because I burn and get sunstroke and all those sort of things, so I'm just really cautious. And perhaps I was too cautious because I don't feel like I've got the proof. Oh, there is a bit of, yeah, it depends. Maybe if I change the filter on the camera, it might make me look browner, possibly. Anyway, welcome to Sonic Talk podcast. This is the music technology podcast brought to you by our friends at iZotope. You can win a copy of Vocal Synth, which is the new version of Vocal Processor. Stay tuned for a bit more later. And also by Revoice Pro, which for this month, there's a 30% discount on the SynchroArts pitch and timing for ADR, all sorts of things for tight vocal harmonies, double tracking, all of that kind of stuff. We'll play a little bit later on, but thanks to them. And we also want to say hello to our chatties. We've got a YouTube chat room here, which, as you can see there, youtube.com/Sonicstate/live. Oh, that's a mouthful, isn't it? Should probably get a bit.ly for that one, but I suppose if you're on YouTube, you might want to go to that anyway. And also our friends in the chat room, which is at Sonicstate.com/live, which is slightly simpler. And this is the old school IRC chat that we have there. Welcome to everybody there. Oh, I think my icon's just... My IRC chat bubble has grown a little bit and is obscuring. Anyway, let's get on to the topics of the day and introduce our guests. First up, we've got, let's start with Mr. Steve Hillier, who's there in Brighton in the UK. Steve Hillier, of course, producer, DJ, songwriter, engineer. Anything else there? Educator. Anything I missed?
Oh no, I've got to do something about this biog. It really sounds like I'm trying a bit too hard. But yeah, great to be back. It's been quite a while actually.
It has, hasn't it? Yeah. So how's life? What's been happening in your neck of the woods?
Yeah, it's been good. I mean, I'm just thinking the last time I was on the show, I think it was back in March. So there's been some DJing. There was a Great Escape Festival down here in Brighton, which I was involved in for the first time, and that was really good fun. It's I don't know if people don't know what the Great Escape is, but it's like it feels like all the new acts from across the world, they all descend into Brighton, which is a small city on the coast just south of London, and there's 3 days of bands playing, and it's usually excellent, and this year it was particularly good. And I put, if anyone's interested, I put together a little playlist you can find on Spotify of my favorite acts that I saw, and it's called, I think the playlist is called Escape from the Great Escape. So if anyone's interested in checking out some new music that I like, it's all up there.
Excellent.
Yeah, and another. Yeah. And then also I've come back from Spain, just finishing off some work down there, and there's a few releases coming up, which is kind of nice. I've got a remix for Freak Power. I don't know if you guys remember those.
Yeah, Ashley Slater. Yeah,
that's the one. Yeah, good old Ash. So that should be out now. Actually, Alt Check and a few other people as well. So, canny busy, but good to be back, and good to be back here as well.
Excellent. Well, glad to hear it. Great Escape. It sort of feels more like the opposite of an escape if everybody goes to the same place. But I get the catchy title. It makes sense.
Yeah, there is one thing that was kind of mad about it. I've got on my phone My Fitness Pal. It's like a sort of steps recorder, shows you how much you've moved in the day. And I live in the middle of Brighton, and the festival was in Brighton, and over 3 days, I'd walked 30 miles just backwards and forwards between bands. So keeps you fit as well.
Excellent. That sounds like a great idea. Superb.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for joining us, of course, Steve. Steve Hillier could be found, we've just changed his lower third, at Steve Hillier UK, which I think is Twitter. Is it Twitter and Instagram and all those things?
It's precisely. It's the world of social media.
Right, the @ unified @ that would be a great address to have. Anyway, we also have Mr. Gaz Williams. I pressed the wrong button. I was going to introduce Dave, but I'll introduce you because you've come up. Gaz Williams, professional bass player, producer, mastering engineer, performer, all of those things. How are you, Gaz? You well?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, I'm looking for a manager or an agent now. So if anyone knows anyone who may want to take me on, if they're brave enough, then I'm all ears. So please get in touch if you are that kind of way inclined. I just kind of realized I reckon I'm at peak performance right now. So I want to kind of I want to exploit it as much as possible, or rather get someone else to exploit it. So,
yeah, it's hard to do it yourself, isn't it?
No, yeah, it is. It's totally hard. So just yes. So just putting it out there, really. So if anyone knows anyone who could possibly, please get in touch. That'd be great.
Be the right guy,
but yeah,
or gal.
Yeah. Because I mean, like, I tell you what, I'm loving playing at the moment. I'm having such a ball. It's sort of I'm on fire. I'm on fire. I tell you. I'm on fire.
He's on fire. I tell you. Well, careful, don't get too hot. We want you burning up. Anyway, well, lovely to have you, Gaz. GazWilliams.me. I don't know if your website's been updated or not, but
no, not for years. I got to do it.
Well, maybe your agent could look after that as well. That would be the ideal scenario, wouldn't it? Yeah. Okay, well, lovely to have you anyway, Gaz. And we also have Mr. Dave Spears from GeForce Software, who's there in his new studio with the lovely... Now, is that the Analog Systems, or is that the... What is that one? It's not. Is it the real thing?
Yeah.
Ah, is that the 55 then?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
So no wonder, yeah. Is it mandatory now you've invested? It's mandatory. You have to have it in all promo shots and everything to do with GeForce Software just to sort of justify its position, or is it pulling its weight?
Yeah, it's the best place for it. We did move a lot of things around, and the .coms over there, which you can't see because this is tethered to an iMac. Got a mixing desk here. That's the kind of workstation, CS80 and stuff there. Kurzweil MIDI board over there. So yeah, and then little Andromeda for the main MIDI keys, and then I've got a little keyboard down here. So yes,
what's that over there under the window? That massive flat synth, is that like a master keyboard and rack units, or is that a really big flat synthesizer?
That's a Prophet 10.
I couldn't tell whether it was dual keyboard.
Wow.
Man, that is the one that when I was a kid, that's the one that I wanted. I think it was just it's a muscle synth, isn't it, really, in many ways? Do people gravitate towards that?
It's really interesting in here because when people come in, they obviously go straight to the modular, and then there's a lot of musos come in. And then obviously my job is when they go, and how does this work? And can I have the sound that sounds like a helicopter, please? So if they come in, they'll gravitate to the modular, and then they go, that's kind of a bit complicated for me. And then they'll go to the 8 voice. And then because I've always got that set up in unison mode, that's like, oh, but then they go to the 80. And honestly, they lose hours on the 80. The 80 and the 10. And we've got a couple of 5s. We've got a Rev 2 and a Rev 3. And the Rev 2 gets a lot of attention. The 10's great, but honestly, bang for buck, I don't know. I mean, it's massive and it's really heavy, and a 5 is obviously half a 10, and it gives you all of the sonic loveliness that you need, particularly the 2. The Rev 2 I do love.
So you charge by the hour then, presumably. If you guide them towards the synths, they'll lose the most time in.
Yeah, and it's like, we've been here 3 days now. Do you want to try another one? No. It's usually quite quick and whatnot, but it's a brilliant space. The location's brilliant, and everybody who's been here has just kind of gone, I could stay here forever. I did have a bit of an epiphany a few weeks ago. I suddenly realized that I hadn't listened to a particular album for like nearly 30 years, and I was listening to it in here, doing some A/B testing, and I suddenly kind of looked around and went, Jesus, 30 years ago, my life wasn't in the best places. And then I was like, 30 years ago, I would never have dreamed that I'd have had this kind of room in a place like this with all this old tat in it. It was way beyond the reach of even my dreams then. So yeah, it's an amazing place.
Do you think? Oh, go on, Gaz.
I was just going to ask him a question about the Prophet 10. What's the key bed like, or the key beds like on it? Because my friend bought, Jeff Downs from Asia was having a sell-off of stuff. He bought his Prophet 10, it had Leo Sayer stenciled on the bottom of it as well, which is quite interesting. But the key bed is horrible, really. Ugh. I don't know if that was typical. It's all right, is it? Maybe that was just full of gunk. Maybe. I don't know.
Good. Just get it rebushed. I know that Prophet 10. That's Thibault Sanders, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that was Coils for a while. I seem to remember mucking about on it down at their place. Oh,
wow, look at that for provenance. I tell you what, though, so I've got an idea then, Dave. I was wondering, in this hot weather with all the synths on, is there a certain kind of scent that these synths give off that you could possibly, you've done the GeForce top trumps. How about a GeForce old synth, not Old Spice, old synth, sort of some kind of scent of old synth?
We had, so Chris and I were plumbing in here one day, and we were, Chris was making up leads and stuff, and we were measuring up and plotting stuff, and then firing up things that hadn't been fired up in quite a long time. And I was kind of down the back there. In fact, I was on an SY2 mucking around, and a wave station, the same wave station that that's a 110, and I accidentally plugged 240 in it, so now it's all working great. And I thought, we'll just kind of check this out. So we're pumping it through the desk, and then all of a sudden there was that smell of something's about to catch fire. You have never seen two guys go into panic mode. Everything in here came off. But I think it was just a couple of capacitors had just kind of gone, whoa, enough. In fact, I suspect, but it was, that was a moment to behold. Two blokes going, whoa. Turn everything on.
I think we need to have a chat room. The chat rooms need to come up with what an old synth scent for Paul should be called, and then that could possibly be the show title. Because at the moment I've got the smell of old synths, which kind of works, but I don't know.
People do walk in and go, wow, that smell of old gear, and it does. It does have a. There is. It's just like a workshop you were taken into as a kid. Really, it's that fantastic. I love it. Well, that's
interesting. I remember we did a show about the smell of old SM58s once. Not a whole show. It wasn't the whole show, obviously. It was just that, there's that thing about the SM58, about the thing that happens to SM58s. They just have this really horrible smell after a while because they've just
it's horrible. Yeah,
it is horrible. But we could probably move on to sort of something a bit more jolly, and perhaps, I don't know, something. Yeah, look, how about this?
There is no community that's going to have anything like this.
This is
this really represents the history of this building, of this
a custom
and it's
piano
that everyone can enjoy.
As an aquarium.
Question, does it work?
Yeah, they got someone great to play. So there we go.
We built a custom grand piano shape aquarium that actually plays music.
Hey, Rochester, are you feeling the blues? You said.
Wow, I probably can't play that much more of that because that is a clip probably from the show called Tanked, which is on the Animal Planet. It's a bit like Cake Boss and, I don't know, those and the custom car things where they have a project and they build something. And this is from, and I'm trying to remember what the name of the company are called. They're called Acrylic Tank Manufacturing, and they're in their 14th season of the show Tanked, where they build custom aquariums. They built aquarium drum kits, big aquariums or whatever, that sort of stuff. And this one was the one that went into the Piano Works in Rochdale, which is a really long-standing company as in New York. And obviously they wanted something that was a centerpiece to their showroom, and that's what they went for. So interesting stuff. I'm not. Apparently, it's got 250 gallons in it. And it's at the heart of it is the Roland RD2000, which is actually a really good piano. I know a couple of people who bought those recently because it's got a lot of master controls on it and stuff, but that's beside the point. But it does look a little bit like, here's the aquarium and there's a sort of piano on a shelf. I would like to have seen maybe strings and something a little bit more adventurous. I don't know. What do you think, Gaz?
I think I hate it. Yeah. I think
you beat me to it.
Free the fish is what I say. Free the fish all over the floor. Yeah, come on. No, I don't know. Yeah, cheesy, horrible. Don't like it.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't there. Yeah.
They won't be inviting you to open the next exhibit, then presumably. And Steve, that sounded like you have much the same sentiment there, really.
Yeah, there's ultimately it's a question of taste, isn't it? And it doesn't suit my taste. And just like Gaz, I was kind of wondering, are the fish okay? How are they reacting to this? Especially as I've got a couple of pianos here. And I know that my cats really enjoy getting on top of them. But the moment you start playing, it's like a sort of mini earthquake in their little tiny cat brains. So I can't imagine what it's like for the even smaller brain for a fish and someone hitting a digital piano. In summary, I don't want one.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not sure they're for sale necessarily, but it does bring a more interesting thing. It's like, there are lots of amazingly designed custom pianos. We've seen all sorts of them. I was trying to find the name of them because they're always quite obscure manufacturers that I really can't remember. And being as I've been on holiday, my audio brain, my music technology brain is not quite up to speed. I know, Dave, what do you think? You've got lots of stuff there. Have you got an actual piano there?
No.
Oh. Well, then you've probably got room for some sort of centerpiece design piano. What would you go for? Have you seen anything you really like the look of?
I'll probably put it in a Citroen DS case. I thought, I don't like this. I didn't like this. It would have been better if it was a real piano and there were really strings going through and the fish was swinging between strings. Yeah. And that was all kind of amplified up. You could have had some fun with that, but no, it didn't really do anything for me. I have done things like for bands who I won't mention.
Make custom cases.
Fitted, yeah, exactly, to make stuff look old, but there's really a controller keyboard in there and stuff like that. I've done things like that in the past, just for stage presence, really.
Yeah, well, that makes sense.
I don't mind that, but no, fishies?
Seems it's an unusual concept. Okay. Well, I'm sure I saw a picture of one in a drum kit. I mean, imagine that. I mean, what the fish would happen to the fish in a drum kit? Because no, because in predatory world, there are fish that actually what they do is they emit this kind of really sharp, certainly deep sea fish. They emit a very sharp kind of sonic boom, which stuns fish temporarily, and then they go and eat them. So I suppose it might be good if you were snacking. But I did find top 10 pianos for the cooler rich. There's some interesting designs here. That's pretty. I don't know. That's pretty unusual. It looks a bit like a potato peeler in some ways, but massive. Then we've got a crystal piano. Let's see Imagine piano, John Lennon, Prince's purple custom piano. This the Swarovski piano. Now there's a concept. Liberace Baldwin rhinestone piano. Could be interesting though. If you vigorously swept the keyboard and caught your wrist on it, you might do some real serious damage there. Piano Arc, there's that one. And where was this one? This was really funny. This is a great intro. So look, check this out. So these are nice, and then look, it's a beautifully constructed tiny miniature by Sega. I just think, wow, it's just it's a beautiful bit of model working, and isn't this astonishing? And then this lady comes in, you think, she's probably a virtuoso who can actually fully play it. So let's see what the results are in a minute. Okay, ready? It's a bit of a letdown, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're not really going to get
my standard of playing.
Rachmaninoff or Chopin. Well, how could you play the mini keys? You'd need
you'd actually probably play it better with chopsticks.
Yeah, I think you'd have to file them down a bit to get in between.
Sellotape matches to your fingers and try and do it like that.
Now,
that's
there's
about
a
the standard
skill.
of my playing anyway.
That's a great skill set to have. But anyway, this is this was the news of the piano, and I just thought it was a bit of fun. As we say, summer's here, and it's kind of quiet, so we tend to kind of pick that sort of stuff up. Anyway, we have a new sponsor this week, so I think I'm going to bring an ad in at this point, just purely because of time, really, because I don't want to bunch them all up at the other end. So let's just hear about Vocal Synth 2, which is just come out. We're actually doing a special.
I'm feeling.
Sounds demo of this. It sounds absolutely great. New Biovox, which gives vowel shaping, so you can reshape the vowels. way improved vocoder, which sounds really good. CompuVox, which also sound, I mean, they've really gone to town on this. New GUI, new interface, new lots of stuff. Really, more effects. And the presets, that I'm not doing the review. A guy sent me the stuff that he was doing, and it sounded absolutely brilliant. You can check this out, Vocal Synth, iZotope.com/Vocal Synth, available. As with all their stuff, you get a demo. And we have a competition, which we can announce for this one. In fact, what I did... the last show but one was for iZotope's Neutron 2, so we have a winner for that. So let's just announce that first. This is a chap called Dominic, I guess it's a chap, Dominic Versetto, Versetto is your Twitter handle. He tweeted, iZotope and Sonicstate rock, thank you very much. I'm upgrading Vocal Synth and have almost all of iZotope's plugins, and upgrade for my copy of Neutron would be sweet, and he she is the winner, so congratulations. Versetto, if you get in touch, please let us know and we'll get you the copy of Neutron 2. But we've got a competition this week for Vocal Synth. So if you want to win a copy of Vocal Synth, I'm tweeting the hashtag Vocals Evolved, which is the tagline for their stuff, and Vocal Synth 2 to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. So we're looking for the hashtag Vocals Evolved and the hashtag Vocal Synth 2 to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. And you'll be entered to win a copy of Vocal Synth 2, which I kind of did myself, and I hope that's all right. So because I didn't okay it beforehand, but I thought it was new, and I'd be happy for everybody to dig it. And it, like I say, I got the drafts of a review that we're having, or at least a sort of preset scan showing the new features, and it sounded absolutely amazing. It was like a real completely paradigm shift from Vocal Synth 1, which was pretty good, but this is even better. So let's get on to another topic. Oh yeah, why not? This is
to open the mystery box from yesterday.
A chap called Synthmania, and he's got a Strymon Big Sky, which, as we know, big reverb. There is, we won't go that unboxing, but he's playing all these great synths through it. And the first one, yeah, here we go.
All right, this is a very simple patch on the Moog Memory Moog, and this is the patch Dry.
It really makes such a, which sounds nice enough, and nothing special, is it? Really, it's just, apart from the fact that it is obviously a memory mode. And then
now we're going to bring in the Strymon Big Sky at about 2 o'clock.
Oh yeah, hello. Oh. I'm loving that. I mean, obviously, there are other reverbs effect, and I just thought, because the reason this came up, and I was clutching at straws a little bit, but I thought it actually came together into a nice topic in the end, was that when I was in Italy, in Sardinia, I went to this big church where this couple got married the day before. It was really interesting, and because they were so dapper, and there were these... They had a cavalcade of like rally cars, which were just sort of revving up outside. It was really interesting, you know, just sort of vibrant and full of fun, but that has nothing to do with the topic. But I went into the church the next day, and they had this organ playing in the background, and it was this huge reverberant space, and obviously the composition had been made around that, and it sounded absolutely lovely, which is kind of what these things are doing in many ways. So that, just, you know, is there anything that doesn't sound better with that much reverb on it, apart from the bass, maybe? And
oh yeah,
do you think the compositions are changing to kind of reflect the quality of these spaces that we're getting now? Because it's not like, you know, in previous years, you know, the reverbs haven't been as beautiful as perhaps they are now. I mean, I don't know. Steve, you sound like you have a thing to say here.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, just to answer directly your question about our compositions changing to use these reverbs, a couple of years ago, I saw an act from Norway called Anna of the North. She's really good. And if you listen to her stuff on Spotify, you'll notice that there's just so much reverb on the vocal that traditionally it just sort of, you would think it just sort of swamps it, but you can also hear that the way that she sung and the way the compositions have been written, they have those, you know, long sustained notes that reverb really sort of brings alive. And so it's pretty clear that her compositions were written with that sound in mind. And when she was playing live, I haven't verified this, but it seemed like that she actually had the reverb that was from the recordings that was recorded onto Ableton Live. It was triggered from there, and she was singing with an additional reverb live on top of it. It just sounded absolutely extraordinary. So I think there's quite a lot of compositions and pop tunes around using these big reverb sound. And I just want to throw in something. There's a reverb that I've been using for about a year and a half. It's called Adaptiverb by Synaptic. I don't know if anyone's familiar with this.
I have heard about
that. It really is an extraordinary piece of kit. It takes a different approach to creating reverbs than like convolution or the regular sort of delay line based stuff, and it seems to resynthesize the input and then resynthesize the reverberation as well. The consequence of this is that you can use really long reverb sounds with melodies and chords that don't clash, because if you have a long reverb sound, you play a succession of chords, the reverb sort of mushes all the notes together. So I'll stop doing this with my hands now. It mushes all the notes together. But with Adaptiverb, the previous notes get kind of gated in a way, or dampened. It's maybe another way of putting it. So you can have long reverb tails, but none of this clashing, and that opens up a huge new sort of sonic world of experimentation that I really like.
We cover. I think we did cover that a little while ago, and it was because it and also you can record frozen sections and bring them back as presets as well. I haven't tried it out, but I know a couple of people were really excited about it. I'm guessing the artist you mentioned also probably doesn't have many T's and S's in her lyric. It's as that would be, or plosives.
Well, my Norwegian's not all that good. I think I can say yes and thank you and please and where is the airport. Actually, I have noticed, just as a little aside, that there's a lot of I used to live in Newcastle, and there's a lot of Geordie words in Norwegian. So there you go, you can have that for free.
Thank you. That's a fact. Yes. That's a fact, folks. Geordie Norwegian. Norwegian. Yeah. That sounds like an interesting idea. Dave, not Dave. I'm going Dave now. Dave, I know you, because you've got the Big Sky, haven't you, Dave? I know that that's one of your go-to reverbs. Have you tried any of the other big ones? Because there's some beauties out there. The Ventris, which is a dual one, it sounds absolutely gorgeous as well.
I think I've got, hang on, I can see it. I've got the Blue Sky, not the big Blue Sky or Big Sky or whatever it's called, which is just a smaller pedal, which I really love because it's just simple. It's really simple. But I'm hugely into, it's a bit of a thing at the minute of mine, into really modulated tails.
Absolutely.
What I love is this, particularly, I mean, for vocals, I love close mic, very kind of gated reverb. So it's kind of lush, but it's just nice and close. And then keyboards. Well, the thing is, again, CS80, it is the law. You have to have there is a reverb police, and you've got to have at least 12-second reverb on any CS80. Otherwise, the police come around and arrest you. But it does sound amazing. And the shimmer reverb I love. But I think the shimmer reverb's possibly in danger of...
Yeah, it gets a bit overused. I think the thing about the shimmer is it's so distinctive, where I like the kind of modulated reverbs. And it's true, isn't it, that I worked with an engineer called Raina Shine in the 80s. She was doing the sound for a band. I might have told this story at the club in Moles where I was working, and she came down and she was recording the band. So they were doing a live gig and she was recording it and then producing the album. And previous to that, she'd been working with Vangelis, and Vangelis apparently used a Rev 1 for a lot of the, and it was just always set to 9 seconds. 9 seconds was his optimum reverb on the Rev 1. The Rev 1, the big Yamaha rack mount thing with the kind of remote control, a bit like the kind of like the classic 480L. It was, I guess, their answer to it. And I've not seen many of those. I mean, that would be probably quite.
Want to hear it?
Okay, go on then.
Wow.
Go on. Ready? Hear that tire?
Yeah,
I did go to John Fox's place once, and his reverb was like he kind of opened a door in a Force 8 Gale. It was amazing. In fact, we even joke about it now. It's like, it's really cold in here. Someone left the reverb on.
What was
That
he
whole kind of. He was using a load of Yamaha stuff. Was it? I think it might even be kind of SPX stuff. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, it was a while ago. In fact, when he was in Bath at the time, we went up to his place and he was playing us those Cathedral Ocean stuff that he does that kind of evolves over the years with the faces of the visual faces and stuff that just morph, which I really, really loved. But it was like, yeah, might want to turn the reverb down. Hey, what do I know?
So, Gaz, I've got to come to you next because traditionally the more proggy side of music requires perhaps more notes than the rest of us would be able to play. So reverb perhaps not the friend of the kind of music that one would play if one was into that sort of thing, or that because you're kind of blurring and you don't get the virtuosity because it all gets a bit smudged. Would that be a fair assumption?
Possibly, yeah.
How long is your? What I'm asking, Gaz, how long is your reverb? It's a very personal question.
I just absolutely love ambient-y reverb stuff myself. And you mentioned about the Ventris, this thing that we looked at a couple of months back. The editor's out now, Nick, by the way.
For iOS, I saw that. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
for the Ventris. And that Ventris is just an astonishing thing. It really is. The quality of it has just blown me away, and I find it that has completely ticked all my reverb. I've got the Eventide here as well, the H9, so that's a very good reverb as well. But the Ventris is just, oh my goodness, really, really, definitely check it out if you haven't looked at it already. What was I going to say though? Composing to rooms is something I did a couple of years ago. Well, I've done it a few times. So a couple of years ago, I did a piece that's up on YouTube called The White Flame. And what I did there was use dry sounds. And I went into this room. It was like a kind of multi-purpose, like it's a gym and a stage. It's like in this a church hall, I think. And just actually wrote a piece of music in there using these sounds and using the decays to kind of influence the writing, which is really interesting. If anyone ever gets a chance to do that, I think it's a really interesting thing to do because it absolutely influences your note choices. And
yeah, you can't really change key or do chromatic shifts that easily if you've got a very long tail because it gets a bit mushy, doesn't it?
But then you can use that mushiness as well as kind of a transitional element as well. You can play with the mushiness. You can just like add loads of stuff and then bring small little things out of it. And but the idea of using it's a really interesting thing to do. Definitely,
I suppose it's a sorry.
No. There's a brilliant documentary on Jeff Lynne. And he's wandering around his house playing with all the kind of natural reverbs, and some's like a kind of nice little atrium chamber and stuff like that. And it's this idea of being inside the space and having the space, make your music fit around that space, as opposed to what we do is tend to make the space fit our music. I love that a lot. It's well worth catching, this documentary, because he's literally just wandering around with a guitar or mandolin or something.
Yeah, well,
and it definitely influences everything he plays. It just totally influences.
That's interesting. Steve,
there's something about that Dave was saying earlier, and also just building on what Gaz was saying about reverbs that have a sort of modulated tail. Yeah, and I found over recent times that you can bring synths that you would otherwise sort of consider cold or lifeless to life using that kind of modulation. And I wrote a whole load of sort of electronic music for live about 3 years ago, essentially doing what Gaz had just said about using the long tails of this modulated reverb to create like sort of walls of sound. And basically, it was just using one of these. Let me get it in shot. It's a Yamaha DX11, which is sort of, it's a great synth, but it's not known for its movement or warmth. But I ended up sticking this through a Boss MT2 distortion pedal, and then a whole load of sort of modulated reverbs, and you ended up with this kind of wall of sound that was a lot like sort of shoegaze music, like sort of My Bloody Valentine from the 90s. I was just thinking, if anyone wants to check this out, there's an example of this. There's a live clip of me doing this, or it's the audio, it's not me actually performing it, on YouTube. If you just go to Ghost, so that's Ghost with 4 Gs, and type in Manor House Road, you can hear this effect. It's just this sort of wall of distortion. It's quite melodic, but it's actually just a DX100 modulated reverb and an old guitar pedal. So
hold on, I think I've got it. Let's just see. Is this it?
That's the one. So the sort of wall of sound comes in at about 2 minutes in.
Okay, hold on. Let's fast forward. Are you going for the full meme with the cat on the piano as well?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So all that stuff that sounds like sort of guitar, that's all just the DX100, but with the modulated reverb behind it to give it movement.
Oh, that's nice. Oh, yeah. Oh, excellent. Okay, I'll have to check that out. I like a bit of that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so you go for the Ventris. What's your reverb of choice, Steve? But now, I mean, what is it? Is it adaptive, or you got any hardware reverb, or are you mostly in the box now?
No, when it comes to this thing, it's all software for me. So I'm using Adaptive Reverb and also Eventide's Black Hole, which is really good for modulation. But when it comes to sort of day-to-day reverb sounds, I really like. I think it's Relab. They have a sort of remake of the old Lexicon reverb. So I'll get it up here actually. But I really would recommend it. It essentially, at least as far as I'm concerned, it sounds just like the original Lexicon reverbs from all those years ago. Where are we? Relab. Yeah, it's called the LX480.
Right.
It's really good.
LX480. See if I can find a screenshot.
Yeah.
For that.
And the interface on it is just the old. It looks just like the old sort of control panel that we all used to use on SSLs.
Oh yeah, here we go. I think this is it. It's loaded. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. I never used to know how they worked. I just used to love the idea of it, but I don't know how that works. I'll go for the SPX90 back at that time when I was at studio. Anyway, yeah. But big reverb. I mean, something was. I missed this in the chat room. It's gone past now, but it was the fact that now it's almost the source is almost irrelevant, as it's what comes out at the end of it. So you would perhaps be much wetter than one would originally be, because you can create those. And with frozen reverbs, as we know, our freeze machines are great for building those kind of massive layers. And then if you've got modulation on it as well, it's just a very dreamy and joyous experience. And I do these Fun Friday jams, and mostly they're going into something massively reverb, because obviously otherwise it would be me playing a mono synth dry, which would be pretty dull and sonically uninteresting, and not cover up all my terrible technique. So that's just that makes more sense.
Because we were playing around with tremolo, weren't we, on the delay tails on the Ventris in our
feature.
That
was good.
Very simple idea, but it's so beautiful just having that tremolo shimmer to the trails. Really gorgeous.
What's that? So I'm just looking at the Ventris now. It looks really interesting. What's the trebles? Is that like a high cut? Just a high cut?
It's different to also. It depends on what the algorithm is. It's completely random. We're not completely
and
random.
You can go into the editor and change the setting, change how that high cut is going to work, and pretty much everything is editable on it as well. It's very deep pedal.
But because it's dual engine, Dave, what you could do is you can kind of set up like a freeze or something really long, and then on the other engine have something a bit more kind of
play over it,
and just hold it. It's fun.
You could use the foot. You can program the foot switches, so when you hold on the sort of second foot switch, it'll freeze one of the reverbs and let the other reverbs still be live for whatever you're playing over the top of that, and it's so addictive. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it is.
Best reverb I've ever used.
I'm hoping to use it tomorrow for a Fun Friday, but I haven't decided what to put into it yet. But anyway, at this point, I think we should probably just have a mention from others. Of course, Revoice Pro from SynchroArts are 30% off the Revoice Pro 3. And here's a little jingle that can show it.
SynchroArts, it's great for ADR and stacking vocal parts. Get 30% off. Audio's fixed in a blink, harmony's always in sync. You wanna rhyme in time and get into this tune. Get Revoice Pro, now the offer's ending soon. You wanna rhyme in time, doo-be-doo-doo-doo-doo, and get into this tune, doo-be-doo-doo-doo-doo. Get Revoice Pro, now the offer's ending soon.
Jolly good fun. Nice to see a jingle there and a bit of advertising done with a bit of fun spirit. That also, not only do you get 30% off, that's new licenses, upgrades, and also rent software to rent if that's the way you do it, but also you get 3 hours of tutorial because it's a very deep pro. We had a look at, I think, Revoice Pro some time ago, and I know Robbie swears by it for like lining up backing vocals and tracking and stuff to get things, because you can use it in a sort of ADR way and also pitch variants as well. It's quite a deep thing, so do check that out. The where you want to go for that, we've got a link. If it's bit.ly/Revoice30, so if you use that link, it just means they know where it came from and it makes everybody happy. So use the link bit.ly/Revoice30. That's the number 30. Okay, so that's all of the admin duties. So where are we? We've got two. Oh yeah, did you see this? I'm just going to find my. Here we are. This is the new Spitfire Labs. This is actually, so I met them at Super Booth and they were really excited. Basically what they're doing is they're releasing these free sort of single instrument plugins, and they've released Soft Piano, which I have to say, I downloaded that and it sounds lovely. I'll play a bit of that. I think this will probably play, possibly not. Hold on a minute, let me reload that. It might be just that I need to here we go. So it's really beautiful, very soft. This is the piano that they put an extra layer of felt between the hammer and the string, so you get a really beautiful soft sound. It's got a very basic controls, just a reverb, and I think there's a chorus in there. I'm not entirely sure, but that's free. And they also announced today strings, which has got kind of short strings, long strings, and what's the other strings? I did download this one as well. Again, this has got a really lovely reverb, and it uses all of that kind of Spitfire nous, because they're bigger instruments, beautifully recorded, very specialized articulations and recording sessions, and this kind of gives you a flavor of that, and it's completely free. I mean, you sign up, you get the player, and then you download the stuff, and they're talking about releasing almost unlimited amount of these, because they can kind of section off little bits of pieces. It just seems like a really good idea. I know Ty's a big fan of Spitfire. Dave, have you come across their stuff? Because it does sound really wonderful, but perhaps it's a bit rich in terms of cost and outlay for some people. But I mean, where's the harm in free for this, for single instruments? It seems like a good idea. I guess it's just a marketing tool in many ways, but we're the beneficiaries.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's funny, their name just keeps coming up in conversation with various musicians in all walks of life, actually. A good friend of mine said he thought they were the kind of benchmark small boutique company doing really good stuff. I should really look at their stuff a little bit more. It's not, I kind of don't use huge orchestral things, but I do love pianos. I do have a little bit of a penchant for different pianos. I use this thing a lot, actually. It's called Emotional Piano, which again is really soft, lovely. And then there's another one, VGP, which is by a guy I really like. Art Vista is the company.
Is the Art Vista sort of modelled and sampled, isn't it? Art Vista, it's a sort of blend, isn't it? Is that right? Am I thinking that correctly?
That's
Piano
so.
Tech.
That's fine.
I think that's Piano Tech, yeah.
Oh yeah, I've used that. I don't generally gravitate to that, but I do use the C7 in Keyscape quite a lot. But honestly, in my opinion, you can never have enough pianos, particularly in the box, because sometimes you're like, oh, it's a bit bright, so I can really easily EQ it. But yeah, just as much variation as possible. So I will definitely be checking this out.
So, okay, there's an interesting question. What's your favourite piano for high notes and your favourite piano for low notes? Is there a distinction enough? The big thunderous. I was always in a remix. There's always a moment where you can put a low D or something in it, and it just goes bang. bit like Koto drums, I suppose, nowadays. But
yeah, it kind of, for me, it varies. It varies on what kind of track I'm doing. If it's you know, I like some of the Art Vista stuff. I really love because it's got that kind of low end thump, and they were quite clever when they came up with names, because it'll be like a particular jazz piano or a Roberta Flack piano, and I'll kind of like, oh yeah, I could do with playing like Roberta Flack today. So I kind of get in that headspace.
Aspirational patch names, good idea.
Yeah, it's clever, and I'm always going to fall for that.
Yeah, great idea though, Steve. Don't you think?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was checking this out earlier, and they sound extraordinary. I mean, extraordinarily good, especially when you consider that they're free. But there was a question that came to my mind, which is that what is the business case for Spitfire doing this? I'm sure it's a profile raiser, you know. So you've got a whole load of So you've got a whole load of incredible and also expensive sample libraries and instruments, and most people won't come across those because they haven't got the money. So you get these free ones. But my question, what I was pondering was, what does this do to the overall market of plug-in instruments if you've got really high quality instruments like this available for free? And of course, I don't know. I don't make, you know, plugins for a living. I suppose this is more of a question I probably would ask Dave. What do you think?
There's very mixed views on it. I mean, some people think, well, it cheapens the whole industry and blah, blah, blah. And then others will probably think, oh, at some point there'll be an upgrade path included in this to a slightly bigger version or a lighter light version or somewhere in between the big version and whatnot. So, but I mean, if it's garnering emails that you can't use,
you'll get exactly what you're getting is customer acquisition. You've got a big mailing list of people who are potentially interested in the product, so you could then go, well, there's this one, and then there's the really big one, and you know, so I suppose it makes sense in that respect.
Yeah, but it strikes me because you know I'm involved with bands and all that kind of thing, that it seems like the software plug-in industry has become a bit like what it's like for new bands, in the sense that you don't just make music or make the software, you have like an ongoing relationship. So for example, you know, a band will tweet every day, do a video every day, or whatever that amounts to, but the software people will also put out video tutorials. They'll give away free presets once every couple of weeks. There'll be just lots of stuff that keeps the customers engaged, I suppose. And it just seems like, and also, sorry, at the same time, it seems like prices are going down as well. All of this is great for the musician. It all seems to be great for the consumer. I don't know where it's going to end, you know, and the effect it's going to have on the market. So more questions than anything else for me, but I'll definitely be downloading this. And also, to go back to your question of what piano sounds really good at the top and at the bottom, I can tell you that my favorite for the top is the piano. Actually, I've got behind me. It's a Yamaha CP70 as made, or famous again by Keen, I suppose. But at the bottom, because it's a short frame piano, the strings don't stay in tune for very long at all. So once you go below, I don't know, G, second G below middle C, it all just goes out of tune. And you can hear this even on sample libraries of a CP70. They're just never in tune down the bottom end. So there you go.
They always reminded me of, I always had this kind of impression that they weren't strings, they're sort of like rods of some kind. They've got a really, because they're single string, aren't they? They don't double up the strings of them, but I guess for sake of simplicity, am I wrong?
They are, I mean, I'll check in a moment actually, but they are strings, they're not rods. Right, so it's not like a Rhodes. So it's like a really short grand piano, but with a whole load of electric guitar style pickups underneath. So you get this sort of hybrid sound of a piano and a bit like a guitar. It's a unique sound actually. I really like it.
Absolutely. What about you guys? I mean, Spitfire stuff does sound lovely, but again, sometimes it's a bit. I mean, it just makes sense, doesn't it? The brand gets out there, and people just kind of go, "Oh yeah." Well, once you know about it, I mean, because they're kind of, their stuff is very good, no doubt.
I mean, this is an outstanding thing. I mean, I've been playing the strings. It's just gorgeous. It's so playable. It's fantastic. And what happens is when there's like the one plugin that you download, and then
you load patches into it. Well, that's the other thing.
So,
it's not Contact as well, which is another thing. So it's promoting the use of their engine, I guess, too.
So they've got a new engine, because they used to didn't they always be in Contact?
They are in Contact, but I don't think this. I'm not sure if this is Contact, or maybe it's some new feature of Contact. I don't know.
So I mean, there's very, very few controls on it. Like how many controls? Let me see, 2 or 3 controls, maybe.
Yeah, I've got it. It's there are 2 sliders and an effect mix. That's kind of pretty much it.
Yeah, and it's. But oh my goodness, I mean, you'd be silly to miss out on this. I think you're trading your email. Actually, you don't even have to do that. You can opt out of receiving the newsletters and stuff as well. So if you don't want to have spam, there's a very little
there's very little data. I guess the thing is that also they would let you know there's another one of these out. Are you interested in the, whatever it may be, which it makes sense. Feels like a fair trade, I suppose.
Yeah, but I have to say the quality when you play with them is not compromised one bit. These are they feel like beautiful high-end instruments. So gosh, I mean, wow, it's amazing. Fair dues to them. But I can see it as a brilliant marketing opportunity for them as well, though. Really will help establish them, and possibly they may have sites on the lower end of the market as well in the future. And I don't know. Let's see what happens. But I mean, right now, don't look a gift horse in the mouth, I think, and grab it, because they truly are. Outstanding. Yeah, they were very excited, and the reverb in the actual thing was actually quite nice. They were very excited about it when I met them at Super Booth. Yeah, and quite rightly so. Okay, let's see where we are now. So I think if you want to check that out, it's basically just spitfireaudio.com/labs, and that's it. And it's very simple. And I think you just have to install the player first. Then it says, have you got this? And when you download it, it asks you, can I open the player to load this in? And it's it's pretty much it's really simple. It's like lots of software companies are doing this now. They're doing like this little front end installer, like Native Access with Native Instruments, where you click to download it, and then all the installation process all happens just in that single thing. Super easy to install. As we know, David, installers are a nightmare, aren't they? Always have been. Has there been some? This is a bit of an aside. Have there been some changes in installer technology, shall we say, that makes it all a bit easier now?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I know that I tend to find out when code's deprecated. That's what I tend to find out when coders are going, oh, well, that doesn't work anymore. But yeah, I guess things have become a bit more streamlined. I can't answer that with any real knowledge, I'm afraid.
All right, fair enough. Okay, so here's another one. If we've got time for this, when is an editor not required? This is a Volca Keys MIDI editor, which is an interesting idea. So basically, you've just got a little VST plugin which maps all of the parameters, or all the CC parameters of the Volca Keys, and lets you edit it from the front panel, which on the front of it, you might think, oh, what a stupid idea. But actually, what it does allow you to do is create presets and recall them, which may or may not be something that you need. And that might actually open up the livelihood of this. I don't know whether this is all going to change when VST2 is depreciated and it doesn't work anymore because of, I think it's all CC rather than other stuff. But yeah, this is the, I'm just trying to find out where the thing is. This is from, hold on a second. This is from the company Volca Keys MIDI editor. Oh, I thought I had this written down. It's JM Do Free. That's it. It's got a bunch of editors. I won't play the whole thing because it's just a bunch of that. So he's done all the Volca, some SH boutiques and whatnot. So yeah, kind of an idea. Is this something that the world needs? But I suppose it's you either need it or you don't. You might think, what's the point? But if you do need it, then you're not going to worry about it. I don't know, Steve. Would you bother? Is this something that's necessary, or does it actually mean?
Well, I don't have any of the Volca series, so I'm not really sure. However, having looked at this earlier, it did initially seem a bit daft, but then I noticed something on the website where they said that you can use this plugin to create automation that then goes to the Volca synths.
That too, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I think that's where this would become really interesting for me, because I know it's possible to set up in Ableton and in Logic automation using MIDI controller, stuff. But with this, it appears like it does it for you, and then you have an interface that represents the synthesizer. So now it becomes a much more friendly process, and I think that would be something that would interest me. And also particularly if if the guy who produced this put together an editor for the Volca FM. Now that would be really interesting, especially
because there's a lot of hidden stuff there, isn't there? Like
absolutely. I mean, the Volca FM sounds great, but it's not. You're not going to program on it, or at least not going to do very much programming on it. And an interface for that would be really good, especially if it responded to controller messages for tweaking, because this is something that many people don't really do, at least with these old, like DX100s. Although you can tweak the controls on this live, it's really just one control at a time.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, if the Volca FM could respond to something like this editor, in real time, and not sort of screw up like the DX11 does over there whenever you send any control information, that I think would be really interesting.
It doesn't have Volca FM, unfortunately, yet. I seem to remember, I'm trying to remember what I did. I think I set up I used a Behringer BCR 2000 and controlled a load of stuff on the reface.
Yes.
And that really made a massive difference to how it is. I mean, this comes back to the perennial issue, isn't it, of how to edit FM sounds without being, getting involved in all that horrible business that we all turned off from, and that's why we got into presets, because we couldn't be bothered to program them on the synth. So yeah, I take your point. I don't know if there is planning one, but it would make sense. I think, Steve, you're right. This one's €6. I mean, it's next to nothing, and it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, that's €6, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of churlish to kind of argue about it in a way. I mean, it does seem in some ways a little bit odd, because the Volcas are all about being hands-on and whatnot, but the automation and the recall of presets certainly makes this kind of interesting, and it is nice to see the Volca Keys getting a little bit of exposure again, because that is a cool little synth. Actually, I really enjoy that. I know Ty Unwin's he loves his Volca Keys and uses it occasionally on certain projects with all of this that he's got in front of him. So that definitely says something for the Volca Keys. But I mean, Volca Keys on the old the synth meme, Volcas in general, come in for a lot of stick these days, don't they?
Yeah, they do. I mean, I think the thing is they were sort of of a time when this stuff was much harder to come by. Now they're a lot more affordable MIDI analog stuff, so it makes
Yeah, very true. They're groundbreaking things, aren't they? Really, the Volcas. They're all really good, except for the Volca mix. I think that's where I think it all goes a little bit pear shaped. But is there a Volca mix editor?
I don't know. That's a good question. I know, Dave. I mean, do you? I mean, I know that your world there is all about the hands-on. It's the fact of having them there. But sometimes, if you wanted to use these things in an actual project in real time, old school style, like playing them all live over MIDI, this sort of thing is going to be really useful. Maybe you should have a Volca rack.
Yeah, I've thought about it with the Roland Boutique stuff. No, I think what Steve's point is particularly on the case. I mean, when I first looked at this, I laughed, because one of the reasons why everyone went to Eurorack and Modular is this getting away from presets thing and doing something that exists for a moment in time and then moving on. And now, of course, that's become like, okay, I need to save it. I mean, I have fairly recently been on a session where we've been back to taking photographs of the positions of synth knobs in the hope that once it does get to a position where, it has to be set up for a live event, it can be set up accurately again. And I was really laughing at the whole thing, just kind of going, isn't that hilarious? We've had, benobbed synths, then we had benobbed synths with memories, and then we had no knob synths with loads of memories, and then we have software and we got caught up. Our distributor in the very early days kind of caught us up in a
what I could only term as a preset war. You know, oh, so and so's plugin's got 500 presets. Can you do 1,000? And it's just like, well, not really. I'd rather do X amount and then be good. And then, of course, and then we had, I think it was Jem Godfrey on here a while ago. It's probably going back a year or so. And he said, you know, rather than scroll through a billion presets to try and get a sound approximating what I want, I bought a JP8 because I know it really well and I can get that pad sound that I want exactly as I want it very quickly. And then, of course, you had the little gizmos come out. And everyone's like, yeah, great. I can plug 1 million of these in. I mean, Gaz, how do you deal with this kind of stuff live? If you want to recreate a track, in fact, I'll talk to you afterwards about your super booth thing, because the last time we spoke, you were kind of prepping for that. And I don't know how that went. But I mean, you know, even knowing what to plug into what again, it's like, oh, now I've got to recreate that system live.
Yeah, tricky.
Yeah, it's tricky. Yeah, it's really tricky. I was, using the Volca. Sorry, not the Volca. The Dreadbox Erebus Live. Which doesn't have any presets, obviously. But really, most of the time, I'm using just like a sound, but I'm I can change the filter on it, and not really doing very much other than filter manipulation. And I would change the release time manually. But other than that, it'd be pretty much just using the same sound.
Yeah, you're right there. It is tricky. I mean, my live set, which I haven't played for ages, but the Erebus was the actual kind of fail point, because it means that, if I've got to patch a load of stuff up and change the sound, I can't be telling jokes while I'm doing that because I won't get it right. And I'm looking at a picture, and in terms of the actual performance aspect of it, it's a nightmare because it's very difficult to do that. But that's why, you see these guys who've got these big modular systems and they perform modular live. What they actually have is multiple patches or multiple voices and different sounds that they bring in at different points. So they're effectively kind of presetting in a way, but it's in hardware. So, they're utilizing the fact that you can get so much into a Eurorack space by creating these individual paths and then developing stuff and having, one sound will be doing this, and there might be an alternative bass line, which is another path, which is just like plugging it into the mixer and muting the other one. So it's kind of doing what you're saying, but the patch is the starting point, and that's, setting that all up is the big problems. I mean, I always wonder how that really works, because I mean, if you imagine somebody really big, a big artist who actually goes further than the occasional sort of here's what I'm doing today gig, where they'll get, your Richard Devines and people like that, they'll always get a massive audience, but it's going to be limited to a degree because, in terms of the popular market, you're not going to get that repeatability, and so if you were using that stuff live, then the repeatability aspect of it becomes quite an issue. I guess Nine Inch Nails, Alessandro Cortini must do a certain amount of that, but there's still quite a wide scope. It's not purely on that, but if you're just using live electronic stuff, then you kind of have to either have duplicates. So I'd have 3 Erebuses, if I'm using it in 3 tracks, if it ever got to that stage, maybe that would be the way to go. But then it starts getting really unmanageable, and you're piling loads of kit.
In my case, so I'm using Electron stuff now for my live MIDI bass rig, so that's all recallable. And in fact, this is where the Electron thing really the complexity about the Electron stuff is absolutely superb in this situation for me. The way I can, the way I do it with the Electron stuff is like to respond to program change is quite interesting. You can't change patches by program change. What you can do over program change is change patterns, and you can have different kits saved to each pattern, and then a kit comprises of 4 different sounds, but that system actually works phenomenally well for me, because one of the great things with the Analog 4 is that any notes which are still in their decay phase, when you change patches, will overhang. So you get these beautiful, you can just transition between the patches really fantastically. Anyway, so that's a digression.
Yeah, I know. I see. That makes sense. But it is, so there is a point to this, and I think that is. I mean, I'll try and read this out. I didn't really get that right. It's if you're interested in these things, it's basically a guy called Jim Dofree, I think, or jimdofree.com, and it's Volca Keys editor. So I think you can just go to that domain, and there's a news item on our site. So he does them for Volca Keys, Volca Bass, Volca Beats, SEO2. These are boutiques, SH1A, JP8 MIDI editor, JU06, JU03. I guess that makes sense. And in some ways, it's sort of... It's a bit like what Eric's done, but with the hardware kind of compatibility side of it. So I suppose everybody's looking for the solution to the same problem. I suppose is the what.
But it's weird, isn't it? Because we kind of invent problems and then kind of invent solutions for a problem and then create another problem and then create it. It's really, I find it really, really funny.
I think it depends on the cycle, isn't it? If you're in if it's performance cycle or studio cycle, there's different requirements for those things.
Totally. And that's where, there are times where I'm utterly conflicted. I can walk in here and I can just do something on the fly and it's done and I forget about it. And then I have to go in, I have to adopt another mode where everything has to be completely reproducible and very methodical and all the rest of it. I do like that freedom occasionally that you get where it's like, right, I can do this and forget it. And that's probably the best work that you do. The stuff you can never recall.
Maybe so. Yeah,
that's very zen.
I don't know. What do you think, Steve?
I thought about this for a very long time because I play live. I haven't played live for a couple of months, but my solution to this, and this is going to sound like a bit of a cop out, but this is what I did, is to take a laptop on stage. And yes, I know, but hear me out. What I would do is use like a variety of different controllers. I think I mentioned this before. I really like the Akai APC 40 Mark II.
40,
I think that's the right one. Yeah, that's the one. And it looks lovely. I mean, people just, they just stare at it, and then there's a push, and there's also one of these. So there's a lot of movement going on. So I'm actually creating the music, but in terms of reproducibility, well, yeah, it's coming from the laptop, so it's actually quite trivial. But the other thing that I did on top of that was to make sure that there was actually a separate one or maybe two separate instruments, normally old analogs because they're sexy, that you can do more stuff that's more... It's not reproducible and it's more about the performance. So it's kind of a compromise ultimately. But it was really, I just came to this conclusion largely because when I'm playing live now, it's just me. There was the consequence of taking around a lot of equipment that's expensive and it's fragile. And then also wondering what is ultimately the audience going to get from this. If you just got like a modular like this one over here that no one can see, sitting there on stage, it's a prop for a lot of the time, unless you're hands-on with it. I just kind of wondered, maybe there's something else that you could do. Maybe there's a streamlined thing, which is the laptop, the occasional projection, a sexy analog, and a bald man like me who looks like a bouncer entertaining you.
Sounds like the perfect night out. It's the perfect night out. Anyway, thank you very much, guys. I think we'll probably wrap things up now. Great to have your input on all of these topics. Lovely to see you all again. I know that we'll just... I should probably just do a bit more admin. Don't forget, if you want to enter the competition to win Vocal Synth 2 from iZotope, we're looking for the hashtag Vocals Evolved. That's one word. And Vocal Synth 2 to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. on Twitter. So that's Vocals Evolved, the hashtag, and the hashtag Vocal Synth 2 to @Sonicstate and @iZotope Inc. And you will be entered to win a copy. And don't forget, if you want to get the SynchroArts... excuse me. Oh, the Vocal Arts Revoice Pro 3 at 30% off. That runs for the entire month of June. And use the URL bit.ly/Revoice30, and that'll get you there, and they'll be able to know where it came from, and everybody will be happy. But that's it for this week. Thank you ever so much for coming. It's been a real pleasure to have you. Dave, lovely to see you and your system there. I'm glad it all worked from the new location, and we didn't have any glitches. Are you back on? Are you turning once you switch us off? Are you turning back to the machines and getting on with music? Is that your current mode?
Yeah. I've got something that needs to be finished by 10 o'clock tonight, which, with a bit of luck, might be finished. I've been working for 2 weeks. On the thing, and it just goes like this.
That's it.
But it does sound great. You've got the right bass drum sound there.
I think I got the punch. The punch is right. The EQ's right. I think it's time to move on to the hi-hat now.
Oh, that's another couple of weeks at least, I would imagine. Yeah. Well, good luck with that, Dave. And if your 10 o'clock deadline looms, then, good luck with that. And also, Mr. Gaz Williams, thank you very much for joining us too. It's been a pleasure to have you. We'll speak again soon. I'll give you a ring tomorrow. We've got a few things to chat about, so it'll be awesome to speak to you again. But thank you, GazWilliams.me, bass player, all of those things. Thank you very much for joining us too. And also, Steve Hillier, I don't know if you're off. Are you around for a bit, or are you? It's festival season, isn't it?
Yeah, it's festival season, but I'm not going anywhere for a few weeks. It's nice to spend some time at home, actually, if you know what I mean. So yeah, I'm around, and the sun's shining, and the trees are growing, and
it's very green here at the moment everywhere. We've had a lot of rain and a lot of sun, so yeah, perfect. Well, Steve, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, everybody. This is the traditional point where we all wave while I play the outro, but that was Sonic Talk episode 535. Thank you very much for listening. See you all next time.